do you have anything to say to people?
Yeah.
You know?
Love who you love. That's like, first and foremost, it's like, it doesn't have to be bees, but just love who you love more than you could possibly imagine. It's like if you're with a partner that you love, you get to know them over the years, and you get to go, oh, they really like this, or they really like that, or they like their foot rubbed, or they need to cry, or you sense that something's unresolved, so you can like meet it. Like, love who you love and keep loving and get better and better at it, and just understand that there's like it pours out like a libation on life. It just fills our cup and overflows. And that's the point. And that's felt in the field. It's felt in Gaza right now, you know. It's felt in the Ukraine. It's felt in Cameroon. And it's felt everywhere. It's felt in women's shelters. It's felt in homes where women should be in the shelters. It's felt in people who've got, you know, who are in despair. It's felt in the field. And it's like, the difference between does our vote matter or not? I think it does. And whether it's a political situation or not, this commitment to the quality of love we express is the best way we vote in life to make the world a better place. And
this is Loving Kindness Every Day, and you are loved here in a very special and unique and authentic way. And I want to thank you today and every day for listening. Here we go. Welcome to Loving Kindness Every Day, where you will hear everyday language such as 4-letter, 5-letter, or words that your mother might call profanity. Please be advised. This episode is sponsored in part by
the Asheville Sanctuary. It's a magical little sanctuary. Mm-hmm.
This episode is called Things We Lost in the Fire, but the conversation is not about loss. It's about the invisible threads that connect people. Divine synchronicity. Debra Roberts is an incredibly accomplished bee master, educator, an artist, a poet, a teacher, a mentor. She's someone who spent years documenting the sacred relationship between nature, community, and life itself. But what touched me about Debra the most was her humanity. It wasn't her accomplishments or all the things that she's done or written, but this feeling, this understanding that we both had, that something was happening here that was much deeper than a conversation. We're going to start at the end of me explaining to Debra the specific situations and circumstances that led me to go back to the place where the house fire story begins.
The first guy, literally, he did the same thing. He went in, he checked in, and then he came over here. And then he saw me.
whoa, so
And I was
some
like,
kind of path.
I said, am I in some sort of universal, like, fucking time warp thing? And then, oh my gosh, and then it got even crazier because, oh my gosh, I'll tell you this last thing. Then it got crazier because as I was driving in, one of the things that I ended up talking to V about was this house fire I had. And I talked about this house fire, and I talked to them.
And you're sitting in a house this is our second house, because we have a house fire. But that's
wow.
Which house? Wow. Which part of your?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a wow. And haven't seen in years my documentary film partner, who that era was over. He's a close friend. We did really good work together. He was house sitting for us. I was in Turkey. Joe was off canoeing, and he had a lapse of attention. And he's the person why the house went. And this is today the first time that he sat down and brought his sweetie after all these years, where he could feel comfortable enough and not guilty enough. Because we were like, Rick, come on, we're over this thing. Today, at this table, was the first time he's come. And I said to him, Rick, I'm going to say the word fire, and I want you to just think about it as an element. I said, all I think about is you and me working together, and we both had some tears around it. I said, fire, so what? Yay for fire, yay for air, yay for water, yay for earth, yay for ethers. But yeah, that was today, just before you came. They left, you came. Man, we've only just grazed the surface. It's like amazing.
Not surprised. So you're gonna love this.
I would love to hear.
So you're gonna love this, cause wow, okay. So here I am with this man who's like, I'm just like, okay, God, all right, interesting, all right. And then they're like inviting me to Puerto Rico, and he's like, come and stay the night, and we could do a podcast. I was like, all right, okay. I was like, this is crazy. All right. Okay. So since his girlfriend was like texting him, and she's like on the phone or whatever, they're doing like FaceTime, and she's in Puerto Rico. And so she's asking me, because she was like, oh, I want to do an interview. And I'm like, listen, we gotta sit down. Like, it's a thing. Sure, great, blah, blah, blah. Sure, end of story. No problem. I go back home. I go across the street. I'm in the whole mindset of, like I told you, I'm trying to get always better with my Spanish, trying to get the people to talk to me. We kind of had this little conversation. We were talking a little bit in Spanish, and I was kind of beating myself up because I forgot this word, entrevista, which means interview. And I kept forgetting the word for interview, and I was like, kind of like, whatever, you know what, I'm going to turn on Telemundo, and I'm going to watch TV. So now, usually don't watch TV, but whatever. So now, mind you, we started this because I was saying to you about the house fire, right?
Yes.
And I told V about it, and it was weird for me because twice I had mentioned this man who is I was in the military, and then I retired from the military, and I had a girlfriend that was like my girlfriend when I was there at Walter Reed, because I was in DC, and I was at Walter Reed for a while. Which I'll touch on later, but because I know, because I just opened
side
a whole
note to
side
Debra.
note of loads of questions. I know, I can see them popping.
But
into
I mean,
my mind
one
over
of them
there.
is like, you must be 500 years old, because I feel like I've heard about multiple careers, but never mind.
People always say that to me. They're like, especially when they hear about the military, they're like, wait, hang on, stop. How old are you? How old are you? And I'm like, okay,
house fire.
So, okay. But I hadn't mentioned this man, so this is her father. So I got it backed up to say to you, okay, I met this woman when I was like kind of at the tail end of my military career, and her and I had a 3-year relationship. Her father and I were kind of close. Like, it was a weird relationship because he had been abusive, like, drinking and just kind of like physically, like with the family and things like that. So he had kind of like this weird sort of maybe like remorseful relationship with her, where he was trying to like compensate and that sort of thing.
Right.
And he would do that with her, and that was like all she could stand. But like with me, he could talk, and I didn't have that past, even though I knew about it, even though I knew the stories, I didn't feel the hurt.
Yes.
And so we could hang out, and we would hang out and chill and talk like you and I are talking right now for hours and days, whatever. We just chill and mash it up, right? And so like, I hadn't really thought about him or talked about him until I got here. After I met you, and when we went to after the constellation, I found myself twice I talked about him since I met you, for example. So a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. So then, really weird, my mom brings him up like the next day I had driven to DC, and then I kind of like thought, because I thought about the house fire and how I told the story about the house fire, which I'll tell you, and writing about the fire, I'd been writing all these things, and all this stuff's kind of coming back to me as I'm driving 7 hours, and so I was like, you know what, maybe I'll go to that house, right, because it's in Bowie, it's in Maryland, it's like 30 minutes outside of DC, I'm going to be there anyway, I'm not going to be busy the whole time, like, sure, I'll go, maybe, and the thought never, it never crossed my mind until then, and then I kind of remembered how I kind of kept feeling like Maryland, like I'd see license plates and like it would kind of like illuminate my mind. I was like, oh, that's weird. I guess that makes sense. That's why I've been drawn to Maryland. All right, I'm gonna go. Fine, sure, I guess, whatever. And then my mom mentioned him later that day, and I thought that was weird and very weird, because it's like, just so that you can understand, with my mom and I are good now. We have a great relationship now. However, the reason I joined the military was because she was really not feeling the gay thing. It was basically like, you got to come up with another place to live. It's not going to be here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for her, at that time in that relationship, she was not very supportive of me at all. And so her love for him was very special because of the fact that he was so injured from the fire. And she was basically reminding me of that. She was like, oh, it's crazy that you're back there. She's like, are you going to see Sarah? That's the girl. And I was like, I don't think so, no. Like, and she was like, she's like, her dad, like, I just remember, like, he was in the hospital for so long. Like, it was, like, such a big deal, da-da-da. And I was like, I know, like, I knew that already, Debra, but, like, I guess I just, like, wasn't thinking it. And then, like,
and just so I'm clear, her father was in your house fire?
So my I'm going to tell you that.
Okay.
So my ex-girlfriend's father was in the house fire. And so and I'll tell you the story of the house fire as well, but basically he was hurt really badly. And so my mom reminded me of that. She was reminding me of just how bad the hurt was, which was weird or different or synchronicitous or random or whatever you want to call it. It was definitely the divine, because like I said to you, I had just spoken about him. And years could have gone by. I never thought about this man.
Right.
Do you understand? Like, just
Yeah.
it was really like close. Like, this is crazy. Like, how many people can talk about a pink elephant and
Right.
like, today? You know, that kind of thing. Like, this is weird. All right. So I go back to now the man at the dispensary. All right. So now,
Okay.
So now I walk across the street. I had just talked to his girlfriend. I was talking in Spanish. I was thinking about entrevista. I turned on the TV. I said, let me turn on Telemundo. I'm going to listen to them talk. I'm going to, learn a bit of Spanish. And when I turn on the TV, what are they talking about? The location of the house fire. The very specific city, Bowie, Maryland, is the first thing that's on the TV on
What?
Telemundo. That's why I told the whole long story, because I was like, I have to give you the context so you can understand how significant it was. And I was like,
how does that even work? I mean, apart from a universal plan, but oh my God.
right? So,
Whoa.
so the question mark of will I go to Bowie turned into
Right.
you're going
to Bowie.
So we got the message,
Whoa.
spirit, going to Bowie, right? So now this will really flip you out. This is the part. So now I know I'm going to Bowie. I remember that I don't know the address to the house.
Right.
I lived here so long. I was there for months. I was like, deep inside, Debra, I know in the back of the room. It's back there somewhere.
Right.
Y'all got the address to the house back there somewhere. Pull it out. Where's it
Yeah.
at? So I'm like, I know it's there. And then something in my spirit was just like, go to Bowie Town Center, which was weird because it wasn't a place I would usually go when I lived in Bowie. It wasn't somewhere I could go, oh, let me go to the library and I'll remember my way home.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. It was just like, go there. And I was like, all right, here we go. We're on the magic path. Let's go. So I go to Bowie Town Center, and also I need jeans. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Macy's. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to do a bit of self-care.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to look good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to get me some jeans. I'm going to have a good time.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I got to this point where I was satisfied with the jeans that I got. And I was like, you know what? Okay, still don't know the address. We know we're close.
Yeah.
But like, where are we going?
Right.
and I remember this number kept coming to my mind, 20801. And I was like, I was convinced, like, that's the address. It must be the address. So I go into my super old ancient email address. And I start searching. And I look up that number, but I realize that number is the number to a high-rise condo that I lived on Miami Beach. And I'm like, well, that's definitely not it. I was like, we got to start all over again because you got yourself all the way here to Bowie Town Center, and you don't know where you're going.
Right.
So what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So I was like, let me type in Bowie because, it's, I was like, okay, let me type that in. And so for some reason, not a lot of results came up. But no surprise to me at this point, the first message that pops up is this message that I sent to this guy named Joe, who I don't even remember existing, because I remember after I was like, who is Joe and who's this Joe? I wrote this really long email to Joe about the house fire and where I was, and I was telling him I was staying at Bowie Town Center.
Oh. Whoa.
Right. I know.
Whoa.
That's what I said at the Macy's. I stood there and I was like,
What's happening here?
I was like, bitch, I don't even remember being here. I don't even remember ever shopping here. And I was reading and there was Bowie Town Center at some hotel that is at the town center. And I says, okay, well, that's interesting and mind blowing. I said, okay, so we're working backwards.
Yeah, I'm working backwards again.
So
Here's
I
the
was
thing.
like, here we are. Obviously, this is where I came after the fire. I was like, all right, so we'll calm down. We're clearly getting closer. There's some more clues. We'll find the address. I find the address. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I have the address. This starts this interesting theme that I feel like only you might understand. So now I begin to think the thoughts of, it's so weird I don't remember this. It becomes a very strong theme of a thought of mine that I keep hearing and I keep feeling and I keep experiencing. I look at the address and I'm like, that address doesn't feel familiar. Nothing about it seems familiar. It's crazy. I know in my brain. I lived there for years.
Yeah.
None of it's familiar. This is weird. All right.
Wow.
I'm going with it. We're getting in the truck. I'm driving. I can see it's a 3-mile drive. I should know. Something around here should feel familiar. I said, I kind of was playing this game with myself, like, how close will I get before I remember?
Right.
Right? And so I'm looking. A miles to go. Half a miles to go. Nothing the whole time, and because I'm recording this as well, because I'm like, this is interesting. Too many magical things are happening, so now I'm recording.
Yes,
so now I'm
for sure.
So I'm and I'm talking my thoughts out loud because I'm recording, right? And so I'm driving down the street, and I'm like, I have my iPad next to me, and I pull the camera, and I'm like, this is crazy. Nothing looks familiar. And it's not because it's new infrastructure or be really built up. It's none of that. It's just that nothing. It's just none of this looks familiar. This is so weird. I don't remember any of this, right? Wow. This is this really strong theme. To the point where I get to the neighborhood, And I see this guy who I think could be the father walking a dog. He looks very similar build, and he's wearing a gray jacket, and he's walking a dog. And I look, and I'm like, I think this thought, and I go, wouldn't it be crazy if I saw him, you know, here today? And so I slow down my truck, and I look, and I'm like, oh no, that's not him. And I'm like, that would be just great, you know. And I keep driving, right? And so I get really close. I'm like really, really, really close to the house now, Debra. Like, you know, Google's like 0.2 miles or whatever, and I'm like still. I'm like, none of this seems familiar. This is so weird. And so then I get to the thing where I'm supposed to turn, like the turn that I would make to go into the area where the houses was. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that makes sense. I can see there's another main road over here. And like, I think I used to enter that road. And so this back road that I've come through, I'm not used to this. And that's why I don't remember. And so like, I'm justifying in my head. I'm like, this is why I don't remember, da, da, da. And I pull in, I'm like, okay, well, I remember this. This is the little area. Like, you can't forget this is the night of the fire. This is where we were. You can't forget this. You know, we're here, right? And as we're there, I pull in, and oh my goodness, there's another man walking a dog with the gray jacket going into the house. And I know that's him. I'm like, that's him this time. I'm like, Hook, and I call out his name. And he goes in the house, he doesn't hear me. I get out of the truck, and I'm like, so I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, that's him, that's crazy, you know. So I'm like, compose myself. Like, all right, maybe not go like scare this man. With all my like energy and everything, you know. So I go and I was like, and I'm super ballsy anyway, so like just like I'll walk up to the door and I'm like, I open the door, I knock on the door, I step back because I don't want him, you know, I don't want to be like too close to the door, you know. I step back, and he opens the door, and like straight away he looks like, just like I remember I was like, oh, I was crazy, you know, like a little older obviously, and he's like, he looks at me like how you look at an Amazon driver who comes to your door for a package that you didn't ask for. Just
no recognition.
Nada. Just nothing, right? And I look at him and I'm like, hey, I used to live here. Like, do you remember me? And he's like, no. And I'm like, really? and I was like, and so now I'm like caught off guard. I'm like, and I'm like, there was a fire here. I used to live here. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, there was a fire, like I was living here, you know, like with you, like we lived here together, like you don't remember me at all? And he's like, no. And I'm like, so now at this point I'm like, okay, this man doesn't remember you, just stop asking him, does he remember you? Okay, he does not remember you. Okay, so I'm like, all right, your daughter, and I give the name, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, that's my daughter, and I'm like, she used to live in Miami, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, with me? And he's like, no, not you. Like, that part don't remember. Her, Miami, yes. You, no. And I'm like, all right, cool. I was like, well, listen, there was a fire here. He's like, yes, I remember the fire. And I was like, all right, check. We're on the same page about that. And I was like, well, I was living here. I remember you. I've actually been talking about you a lot lately. I came here. I'm going to record. Do you mind? I'm going to put my camera here. I won't be here long. 10 minutes. I'm going to sit down. Da, da, da. He's like, yeah, it's just that I had a stroke. And so I don't remember, you know, you, and I'm sorry.
Oh, wow. How touching.
And I was like, whoa.
Oh.
And then I kind of thought,
Wow.
and I just recorded the story of the fire and the night, and that's where I was at. And so then he comes running from the side of the house, and it's big sigh of relief, you know, all that. And he thinks he's fine, and I guess that's what reminded me, my mom reminded me, because he thinks he's fine. He doesn't even want to go to the hospital. The paramedics had to convince him, let's just, like, he didn't want to, like, he was the only, number one, he was the only reason that we had a place, like, to stay temporarily, because the area was serviced, I don't know if it's still serviced by volunteer firefighters, but it was serviced by volunteer firefighters at the time, so it was a little minute before they actually showed up, you know, and I didn't have anything on except for my pajamas and my flip-flops. When he came running out of the house, he saved us all because, like, he always kept his keys in his pocket. That was, like, one of his things, you know, and so he had the keys to the car, we get into the car, all of us are like, you know, okay, we're alive, check our hearts, a couple of the dogs died, like, is a lot going on, you know, And so he's like, I'm fine, you know, and the paramedics come and they're like, sir, can we just check you out? And he's like, no, I'm good, you know, everything's fine, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they were kind of like really insistent, and then finally he goes with them, and like, it ends up being that like, he's like really in a bad way. Like really in a bad way. Like was in ICU.
Inhaling.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
He had inhaled it, and he had burns. All like he was actually really in a bad way. I remember for a while he wore this like thing on like part of his head, and like he was really in a bad way.
But he probably didn't know, maybe with the adrenaline thing at the beginning. Oh my God.
That.
Bless those paramedics for being insistent.
Yeah, for sure. Because like had they not been so insistent, he would have sure just suffocated to death in there.
Right.
Just his lungs would have closed up. And they literally told him that they were like, we literally caught you at like just the last moment before we wouldn't have been able to save you.
Oh wow.
Like literally. So
our fire, I was in Turkey. I've been there a lot because I teach, and natural beekeeping was the road in, and then it turned into other things. But the bee thing has been very alive, and that was my visa into many places in the world, actually. And I was in the last week, I was in my friend's cottage in a little village in a remote place. And my brother-in-law had emailed her. He wasn't getting a hold of me because I was, not checking my stuff. She says, there's been a fire at your house. And I thought, bummer, but I just was like, a little fire. And then it was like, oh, more of a fire, but, we'll move into the basement. We'll just do little things. Then he sent the picture from WLOS News, because there were like 30 firefighters up here, apparently, because they didn't want the forest to go.
right.
And it was at night, and so the fire, it started on the deck because Rick had a tea towel that had gotten a flame too near a burner. So he brought it out, wrapped it in cotton, stamp, thinking he stomped it out, but it was cotton. And so it burned embers, and then Trex, which theoretically doesn't burn, after some hours burned. Anyway, the picture from WLOS, and I'm looking at this in Turkey, was beautiful, strangely beautiful. The whole deck was on fire. The whole house was on fire. Half the tree, which was very upsetting, but I was like too numb or too something. It was just like this transcendental moment. It was almost like an altar. It was like and I said to my friend Felice, I said, she said, if you're sad, cry or whatever. I said, I'll probably get to that, but in the moment I'm not feeling it. I'm just like I feel like the organism, if we're not being bombed, there's certain circumstances where I don't know how this works, but there's an intelligence of the organism to numb us, cocoon us a little bit, and then like a time release capsule, just kind of let out doses of needing a shock. Yeah. I was in shock, but I didn't know. Yeah. And it was beautiful. And then I came back, and I decided, because my biggest teaching gig was in Istanbul the following weekend, and I said, on the phone to Joe, and I said, you can't unburn a house. I might as well do this gig. He said, yeah, I might as well do this gig.
I love your attitude. Oh, wow.
Well, it was like, and a friend had sent that poem that a student of Basho wrote many years ago. My house is burned down, and now I have a better view of the moon. She sent me that. And I was in that place. We were both in an Om Namah Shivaya place. He got Rick on a Zoom here, because he came back from the canoeing, and we were both concerned because we were probably amongst the people most top on Rick's list to not want to burn a house down. We were friends, family. So we got him on a Zoom because we didn't want him to go jump off a mountain or something,
Right,
he was like,
for sure.
He was devastated.
Obviously, and like, what are you gonna do?
Joe's like Buddha mind, and I'm like, whatever, on the Mahashivaya, and later it got real, differently real, but that was the first response. And when I came back, it was like curious. We were staying next door, and when glass, like those kind of windows shatter, it's not sharp. It bursts, maybe like a windshield, I don't know. So it looks like diamonds. So the whole deck, it was a hole burned through it, but everything was covered with diamonds, and then the sunlight was coming through. It was beautiful. So then the WLS people decided to do a story on it a couple days later. Joe was off doing something. So I was next door, and they met me there, and I wasn't acting sad enough. but I wasn't in the sad thing. And I realized they needed, something for the ratings or something. And also they couldn't read me. And I said, well, let's get some establishing shots. Why don't you do the dishes or chop something? And so I was doing the thing. He was trying to draw this emotion out that I was not yet feeling.
Okay.
And then we went to the site, and then we're standing downstairs with a lot of diamonds on the ground, and there's a big whole thing, and this whole, it didn't all burn to the ground, but enough burned. This is the new one.
Okay,
we haven't. Yeah, this is a modular one.
Was it gutted or?
It was like a black and white movie where you're just depressed from the beginning of the movie to the end. It's just like it looked like no color. All the color had been burned out of the thing, and some things on the dining room table were still there. I'm like, oh dear.
This is a descriptive language.
Yeah, well, it was something. And so I'm standing in the diamonds downstairs, and the poor man's thinking, well, surely she's going to flip out or something. It would be really nice if she flipped out. You could kind of read that in his field. And I'm just like, oh, look, look, this, I just wasn't in that place. So then he got me to pose. I could pose, and from the side I could look very thoughtful. I just didn't have it in me to do what he needed. If he'd been there a couple weeks later, then I started to, show it differently. But I had just come back from Turkey, and I just met my first, it was a refugee from Syria, because the war in Syria had just broken out. And I had been invited to help with this small group of people kind of brainstorm a school that didn't happen actually, but it was a very interesting brainstorm. And the Syrian man was there, and he had escaped. He was of an age he would have been conscripted into the army in ISIS, or snatching all the men up. He had a wife and 7 kids. He and his wife, they had fled. They had many generations of shoe factory that had gotten bombed. They had some land outside the city. They left the city. Their house was bombed 2 hours later, and so he had to go through a minefield in the middle of the night to escape, because he decided, go to Turkey, earn some money, support us. That's what he did. Okay. So I'd met him, and I came home to the fire, and it was like, wow, there's a difference between hard things and tragedy. Mine was a hard thing. His was a tragedy. And so whenever I think about the fire, I think about him. And all he had, he could escape with nothing. He had this little thumb drive with pictures of his family. And the group of us had invited him to dinner. And we were asking him about his family. And he pulls out this thumb drive, and he says, my family, his English was, his language was not, but we were, we're on the same page. And so he could put this thumb drive in the computer, and my wife, my son, oh my God. So that just gave a whole different context for the fire. And then, you know what it is, you lose your stuff, and it's really inconvenient. For sure it's inconvenient. And our cat got out. I'm really sorry about the dogs, that went with the fire that you had. But our cat escaped, and nobody died. And then I'm very attached to my plants. Some of these relationships are 20 years. Yeah. So some of them got lost, and then some of them went down to a nub. Oh. And some of them were a 16th of a nail's worth of green. And I'm like, you're green, I'm patient, we're gonna resurrect. And all of those came back. Some of them took 6 months. But I'm like, you're green, you got green. Oh, is that a little bit more green? Is that, it's like, is that green? Okay, I'm still seeing green. Water, yeah.
Out of some of these here?
Oh yeah, the aloe,
wow.
The hibiscus trees, yeah.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, that was where I started to get sad. That's where the thing kicked in Turkey. I was like, oh my God, what about the plants? And I called, and Rick had pulled as many out as he could. Bless him, he was great. So anyway, but not the worst thing that ever happened. It's not fun, but not the worst. So our neighbor, who's a Christian man, we didn't know him very much, but there was a big bear thing that Joe and I went to bat for the bears in this area years ago. It's a whole other story. And this man was going to stand up for us if we needed him to in court.
Oh, that's lovely.
He didn't need to, but
Right.
so I just thanked the bejeebers out of him and with this letter. And then a couple of years later, after the fire, we had the fire, and he said, "I'm a Christian man. I'm a builder, and I also am involved in modular homes. So this modular home."
Hang on, let me turn that off.
And then it was cheaper. We only had one floor in the basement before. It was cheaper because of a series of circumstances with the man who was arranging this for us with the company to have a second story. Cheaper to have a second story than one story for this weird reason.
That's crazy.
So it's not developed, but it's on the list of things to do. So it's
Oh,
storage.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Why is that on? I'm sorry. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love this. You have like actually infinite potential as well.
Oh,
Not infinite,
yes.
but you have more potential.
And down there, whole other story for another time, that the man who's been living in our basement, which is the former Airbnb, he's a world percussionist.
You know, your daughter, I said her name, and he's like, yeah. He's like, I was like, she used to live in Miami. He's like, yeah. I was like, with me? And he was like, nope, you're gone. Like, I don't remember you. Which part of me, I love that. I love that, like, him and I had this whole relationship that, like, his brain, like, he doesn't have it. And, like, I remember we met up later after, like, the fire and after, like, you know, him and his daughter and I had a relationship, you know, like, for a few years, you know, like, him and I spent a long time just right there in that front room, you know, like, watching cartoons and drinking beer and just having a good time. He's like, he doesn't remember any of that, which, like, part of you could say, like, yeah, that's sad, but then part of me is kind of like, there's something good about the human brain. Like, when him and I did meet up, he told me that he was kind of sad that I wasn't there, and, like, maybe it was good that, like, he just didn't remember me at all, you know, that I'm gone, like, completely. And there's something about that seems good and, like, helpful. You know, even for, like, our own human experience, like, for my own experience, you know, I've been kind of realizing that, like, I'm coming back to these places and, like, certain things I don't remember is probably, like, good, you know, like, maybe things about, like, my brother and the trauma and stuff like that. Like, sometimes it's just not good to sit in it. Like, life is now, you know? He's out there and he's walking his dog and they're having a good time now. They're enjoying their life now, right? That's what I hope anyway.
The iceberg is many things. It's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Need something to drink?
Oh, actually, I brought my water with me. I brought a water bottle with me.
I think.
I'm all right. Thank you, though, Joe.
Yeah.
This
One of the things.
is
Yes.
a water vessel.
Yes, that's the one. One of the things Debra and I were talking about was like these divine sort of synchronicities that have happened since her and I met and the path.
Yes.
And one of the things was I wrote this email that I found. Like I wrote the email maybe back in like 2009. And
Wow.
I wrote the email, but I wrote it to a guy named Joe.
Ah.
And to somebody that I didn't even know, like when I found the email, I was saying to Debra, like I found the email. This is a really long email that I wrote to this person that I didn't even know existed. But I'm looking up